Welcome to Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor, your one-stop shop when it comes to animation news and commentary. I'm Drew's co-host, entertainment writer Jim Hill, and he and I are recording the show on Friday, June 25th, 2021, which is the day after Conan ended its 11-year run on TBS. Did you watch any of the shows this week, or?
Well, I kind of watched them piecemeal after the fact. I was really hoping that Will Forte's version of Ted Turner would come back on the show one last time, but did not happen.
Yeah,
It's okay.
I mean,
It's okay.
This is a very, very funny man who got treated very, very poorly by NBC. And if you don't believe me, go pick up a copy of Bill Carter's great book, The War for Late Night, when Leno went early and television went crazy. But
That is a great book. Have you been watching the CNN series, Jim?
I have not.
The Story of Late Night?
Mark Evanier, who does the Great News From Me site, was talking about the fact that it's 6 hours long. And the problem is that when you're trying to tell the story of Late Night in 6 hours, there's a lot of stuff that falls off the table. Did they get into Steve Allen at all, or Jack Parr, or?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
They do.
All right.
It's worth watching, Jim.
Okay. In all of the available time I have, I will go check that out. But speaking of things you really, really need to check out, what I loved about this final week of Conan is it came time for Conan to do his exit interview from TBS. And so suddenly the show changes to animation, and who comes in to do his exit interview but Homer Simpson's. You can go to YouTube right now. It only takes you 2 minutes and 52 seconds to watch this thing. But it's so sweet. What I love about this piece of animation is Homer at one point actually talks about, I've had a lot of jobs. One time I drove a monorail. And of course, he's referencing the Marge versus the monorail, which O'Brien actually wrote while he was over at The Simpsons. And in fact, that one was directed by our pal Rich Moore of Wreck-It Ralph and Zootopia fame.
Well, speaking of, Jim, you know who actually did the animation for this little bit?
No.
Is our other buddy, David Silverman.
No.
Who directed the recent Simpsons,
Yeah.
Star Wars short, amongst many other things. Co-directed Monsters, Inc. with Pete Docter, and many other amazing things.
Yeah.
So that's who animated it.
Oh, that's killer. I have to admit, as an old, bald, fat guy, the fact that Conan, for his bonding moment with Homer, at one point lifts up he reveals his red wig, and he's got the same 3 hairs as Homer. So kind of a depressing way to begin the show. But on the other hand, the big show, folks, big show. Second half of this podcast, Drew and I get to talk with editor extraordinaire David Bess and Shannon Mills from Skywalker Sound, the two very, very talented gentlemen behind the hit Disney Plus series, Zenimation. By the way, we only got to do this interview thanks to Amy Astley over at Walt Disney Animation Studio, also our old pal from Disneyland, Aaron Glover. And have we ever done an interview that long before, or?
No, I mean, you and I talk for a long time, and God knows it wears me down, Jim, but we have never talked to anyone outside of our little circle before for that long. And I thought it was really great. I think that even if you haven't watched Zenimation, you're going to learn a lot. And these guys are really wonderful professionals. They kind of mix the technical side of things with the artistic side in a really lovely way. And I think you're going to really get a lot out of it. I think you and I did, right?
As much as I loved the Zenimation shorts beforehand, came away with a real appreciation for what it takes to pull these things together. But that's the second half of the show. But first, the news. And the news portion of today's show is brought to you by Storybook Destination, trusted travel partner of the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network. For a worry-free travel experience, please book online at storybookdestinations.com. So, the Jellystone trailer, what did you think?
It seems to be the kind of thing that they were sort of trying to do with Scoob, but didn't quite pull off in terms of making it this crazy Hanna-Barbera world. Is that the impression you got too, Jim?
This is coming from C.H. Greenblatt, the guy behind Chowder, which I loved. And it definitely has, definitely has a Chowder vibe. And also, again, I'm 62 years old. I watched these shows, Yogi Bear, Huckleberry Hound, all these things in real time. So to see these characters again, only it's slightly brain damaged, I'm looking forward to this one. I'm not quite sure what's going on with Johnny Quest and Haji. We got a quick clip in there that was kind of interesting. Did we, over the course of the Venture Brothers, also touch on what happened to Johnny Quest? And I guess in that sphere, it didn't end well. But this drops on July 29th on HBO Max, right?
Yeah, we will be watching it.
Okay.
Undoubtedly. Yeah, I'm very excited.
Same thing here. Okay, now continuing our animated creatures we know but are now seeing in different ways theme tonight. Nickelodeon recently released the official trailer for the SpongeBob spinoff, The Patrick Star Show. Did we see that?
I didn't see that. I didn't see that trailer, Jim. How did this sneak by me?
You were out in Palm Springs. It was 123 degrees. You were probably under something seeking shade.
That's true.
There's a part of me that is like, let me get this straight. Patrick Star gets a talk show, but Conan loses his. That ain't right true. But I liked what I saw with this. I mean, it's definitely in the Bikini Bottom world, and Bill Farkenbach still just killing it as this character. Is Dana Snyder doing the grandfather, or?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
Jim, you know more about the Patrick Star Show than I'll ever know. You'll forget more than I'll ever know. That's how much you know about this show.
Okay. All right. Well, now I know you saw this trailer, but the Sing 2 trailer, what did we think?
It looks very busy.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of new characters. A lot of Bono in there playing a lion. Isn't he the lion, Jim?
He is. Having seen this trailer, we have his entire backstory. We have tragic loss of his wife, which is preventing him from singing again. But you mentioned lots of new characters. But for me, the weird part of it is Mina, the elephant character from the first film. When I'm having a particularly bad day, I will go to YouTube and watch it was basically the end number of the film, the Stevie Wonder song, Don't You Worry About a Thing. It's a beautiful rendition. It's a great animated scene, a lot of fun. But she's barely in this trailer. So it's like the one who basically brought the thing home, and you don't show anything of her or very little of her in the trailer. But again, I know there's an art to cutting trailers. You want to infer or you want to have stuff for this is the teaser. We'll get the official trailer eventually, but I thought that was an interesting choice. And speaking of trailers, a couple of shows back, you and I talked about Mamoru Hosoda's Belle, the Beauty and the Beast meets social media and the internet, and how it's being released in Japan next month. Did you see where G Kids has picked it up for North America?
No, I'm very happy about that, though. They always do a wonderful job. And more importantly, they more often than not sneak an Oscar nomination in there for Best Animated Feature.
Yeah.
Either, I think they did, one of the Cartoon Saloon movies got nominated when they were distributing it. And so they've got a really good track record with that. So I'm hoping that it can get some cred at the end of the year too. Have they set a release date yet?
No, this was literally the announcement of they have made the deal. It looks like we're looking into the fall before we'll see Belle. And again, it's this weird space we have now where it's theater plus streaming. So it'll be interesting to see how it filters out. Speaking of things that get streamed, you said you had heard something interesting about the Infinity Train cancellation. So we had the 3 seasons and done, right?
4 seasons, Jim. The 4th season just aired in April. Yes,
How did
you
that
co-host an animation podcast. I just want to remind you of that.
Like, that I diligently watched the first 2 seasons. And then the whole notion of changing out the character, it was one of these things where it's like, okay. And plus, didn't it went from Cartoon Network to Netflix? Or did it go Netflix to Cartoon Network?
To HBO Max.
There we go. All right. That's the thing. It was just sort of like, I mean, I'm sorry, when an animated series enters the witness protection program, it's just sort of like, okay.
So basically, the creator of it, who's from Regular Show, said that basically it was canceled because there was not a child entry point character. The characters are essentially getting too old because each season there would be an older character in the lead role, which doesn't really make a lot of sense considering we've seen stuff like that happen in Steven Universe and Adventure Time. But that's the reason that he says HBO Max gave him. So
How?
while there were plans for 6 seasons and a prequel and all this stuff, it looks like none of that is actually going to happen, which is sort of disappointing because I think it was a really strong, creative little project.
When you have that conductor character, that sort of spider bot thing, likewise the talking cat, from a young kid's point of view, I won't say it was hugely accessible, in the fact that you kind of had to watch all of the episodes of the season. They were very linear, very connected. You were watching the numbers go down on the passenger's wristband as they were trying to get off the train. But, that's such a shame. A weird part of covering any aspect of entertainment news these days is that virtually every press release when you see a show getting canceled is the next phrase is, and it's being shopped around.
Right.
Very few shows find new homes, but Tuca and Birdie got canceled and we had to wait damn near a year before Adult Swim picked that up.
Right.
So, all right. Well, here's hoping. Speaking of Adult Swim, I guess we have to talk about the season 5 premiere of Rick and Morty, the Mort Dinner Rick Andre, which I gotta appreciate the My Dinner with Andre joke there. What did you think?
I thought it was really fun. It was just another fun, Rick and Morty episode. I thought Mr. Nimbus was a pretty hilarious villain.
Mm-hmm.
This one is written by a guy, Jeff Loveness, who is writing Ant-Man in Quantumania. Mm-hmm. And I believe, has become part of the Marvel Studios family over there. So, a lot of Rick and Morty graduates going over to Marvel Studios.
Weren't we talking in the last show about how Loki, very, very Rick and Morty vibe going on there? And watching Mort Dinner Rick Andre, there was some very Avengers Endgame time travel energy going on there. And this is the first time I ever felt bad for Summer. By the end of the episode, she ran off like, I am a time god. It's like, okay, that's going to be fun at high school. Speaking of time, if we're going to get to this Disney Zenimation interview, Drew and I really need to get moving. So we're going to jump to commercial quick, folks, and then come right back.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
What I bought? A new Blink Mini 2K Plus smart security camera. What I got? 2K clarity sharp enough to see every detail of home when I'm away. Plus audio like I'm in the room, not with my bestie traveling to another city. Plus easy plug-in setup to install faster than skipping through podcast ads. But you'd never skip ads, right? Plus, I got all of this for just $49.99. Blink Mini 2K Plus. Mini camera, max performance. Shop now at amazon.com/blink.
Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku. And it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
And we're back, and we're now working the Disney side of the street. Did you see any of the news coming out of Annexy in regard to the new Disney shorts?
I didn't see any of the news. I know some people saw it. We did not see it,
We
Jim.
have not seen it. Nope.
It would have been nice to, watch that, but we'll see it with Encanto in November. But I've heard it's wonderful. I mean, it's Natalie Norgett, who you and I both love, who did Exchange Student.
She did.
Right?
And more to the point, she wrote that wonderful book, I Moved to Los Angeles to Work in Animation, from Boombox in January of 2019. I've literally been sending that out as graduation gifts because it's got such great info about people who are trying to get into this industry. But the name of the short is Far from the Tree, and it's Mother Raccoon dealing with kind of an obstinate little baby raccoon, and the stakes are kind of high because there are hungry coyotes nearby. So sounds like an interesting lead into Encanto.
You think any of those raccoons won't be able to get on the gantry? My hand doesn't scan. Okay.
It's
my
so
rocket impression.
so interesting you say that, because I'm sure you saw the same news this week about Scarlett Johansson signing the deal with Disney to make a Tower of Terror movie. I forget who it was who tweeted to the effect of, good, okay, so when that's a hit, they'll change back Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout, and we'll get a Scarlett Johansson audio animatronic figure. And it's like, have you actually been on this ride? Have you actually been on Mission Breakout? Because it's so much better than the Californian version of Tower of Terror, which was kind of done on the cheap.
Yep.
I don't get that. It's like, you got a better ride. Why are you complaining?
I know.
It's not like Bob Chapek said. I mean, it's not like the 60-year-old Splash Mountain. You didn't get rid of that classic. And it was only it opened in 2004, right? So it was only 15 years old when they closed it. So it's like, oof. Oh, speaking of Disneyland Resort related stuff, did you see the images today of the backhoe in Mickey's Toontown?
Heartbroken, Jim. I love the gag factory. I love that conveyor belt up there. It's so cool. Mm-hmm. It's such a testament of weird 90s Disney Imagineering power. And I am just very sad about the whole thing. But it's not like they tore out the flagship attraction and stuck the ride in there. Yeah. No one would ever do that, right, Jim? Ooh.
One of these moments, it just sets up a beautiful segue. I mean, sometimes you have to take things apart in order to get great new things. I mean, think about it. Yes, we're losing the Gag Factory, but on the other hand, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway is an amazing attraction. I mean, it just is an absolutely killer thing. People are going to really enjoy that. And again, Zenimation does the same thing. I mean, they take films that we love and, already know, and some of them going all the way back to the 30s, Snow White, Pinocchio, and take them apart and manage then to reassemble them into something genuinely special, thanks to great editing choices and amazing sound beds. And as I mentioned earlier, Drew and I were lucky enough earlier this week to get a chance to talk with the two gentlemen behind this project. Shannon Mills, you're with Skywalker Sound and creates the incredible sound beds. And we have David Bess. The gentleman actually came up with the idea. Is that correct?
Yeah, I guess so. That's correct.
All right. Can we talk a little bit about the origin of the project? I love everything about these, how they give you a renewed appreciation of Disney animation. But what was the inciting event?
Well, first of all, thanks for having us, Jim. I have to say, I have learned so much from everything that you've written about, and actually learned more about the company probably from what you've said than actually working there. So it's really great. Thank you. Okay. Well, I got the idea for this when I was tasked to come up with some videos for the D23 Expo a few years ago. And as you probably know, Walt Disney Animation Studios has a exhibit or a booth on the exhibit floor. And there are some monitors where we usually play trailers and TV spots and sizzle pieces and things like that. And I wanted to come up with something that was maybe somewhat more relaxing, something that people could just sit down, take a breath, take a moment, and just kind of chill. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is I'm always kind of looking for, opportunities to showcase clips from our films, from the whole legacy of Walt Disney Animation films. So I just started looking through the films, particularly the more recent films, starting from Bolt and then going up until, I think at that time, our newest film was probably Frozen 2, I think. But anyway, and I just started looking for clips that had our characters either taking in the scenery around them or just kind of enjoying a natural setting, being kind of peaceful, being mindful basically about their surroundings and their setting. And then that was basically how it started.
Shannon, how did you enter the equation then? I mean, did you, David, reach out and bring him in, or did you create one of these pieces and think, ooh, this would be so much better with a new sound bed, or how did that work?
Well, maybe a combination of those things. I think I was in the office at the time with Bernice Robinson, our post person, and we stopped by to talk to David while he was working on the first cuts of Zenimation 1. And so he and I met, and he showed us one of the pieces he was working on, and then we just kind of, started working on it from there, basically.
Well, how did it go from a presentation in the D23 booth to 2 seasons on Disney Plus? I think that also, we need to know that connective tissue as well.
That's a good question. That is a huge thanks to Amy Astley, our producer. She really liked what we had done with it at D23. At D23 Expo, it was basically just single clips. It was like, okay, here's a scene from Frozen 1 where the main characters are walking through that wintry snowscape and just taking it all in. And that was all we would show. And then there'd be other stuff, other trailers or TV spots. And then we'd show another clip. So Amy suggested, I think, to someone at Disney Plus, if they would be interested in something like this, and they were. And then they came back to me and said, well, see if you can maybe put these clips together in some way that it could be more in a short series form. And so that's kind of when we started looking for subjects and looking for ways to link all these different clips together, kind of by a heading or a subject. And I guess the other thing we should probably mention too, that definitely Shannon, my gosh, we're just so grateful for his help on this, because one of the things too is we wanted to strip out the music and pick scenes that really didn't have dialogue. So all you're really hearing are the sound effects, and that's kind of the focus in conjunction with what you're seeing. And we were able to mostly use sources of the feature films that had separate sound effect stems, so we could literally turn off the music and the dialogue. But for some of the older films, some of the films going back into the 80s, the 70s, and then even earlier, we didn't have that necessarily. So that was where Shannon got an opportunity to really do some cool stuff. I'll let you talk more about that, Shannon. But
these days, we're very careful about when we finish a film, we go through the archival and we make sure we have the sound effects by themselves, the music by themselves, and the dialogue by themselves, should we ever need it for something that comes up. But way back, they weren't always doing that, or they didn't always have time to do that. So there were certain older projects where David might have cut in his track. He would have, the music and the sound effects together, but we didn't want to use the music for this particular project because, it's kind of a meditative sound project. So we tried to recreate the sound of the film by listening to these, the old tracks. And in some cases, there wasn't any sound there, but we wanted there to be, because when we're mixing these film projects, for instance, if the music is supposed to take you in that moment, the mixer might say, oh, well, I don't want to hear footsteps or ambience here. We're going to just go with the music, and he'll turn all the sound effects down, right? Which is great in the context of the film. But in the context of a project like this, we may want to hear those things. So in some cases, we had to recreate things that maybe you didn't hear in the actual film, but were there and taken out for other reasons.
What's absolutely magical about these things is when you think about how much of, you associate with Disney films, the music. You see an image and the song immediately comes to mind. And what you've done here, where you've stripped out the music, it's almost kind of stunning sometimes about how powerful these things are just with the imagery and the sound bed, that in a weird way, they're almost more powerful than they were with the music. But at the same time, it allows you to focus in on the artistry. And at the same time, some of these sound beds are so ridiculously, enveloping, you just sort of like, holy cow. Now, how does it start for the first set? So the first set of Zenimations, you have things like water and water realms. I mean, so did you just start, okay, that clip might work, this clip might work? Did you build a pile and then find the theme, or was it the theme and then go looking at the clips?
It's a little bit of both, actually. But I think initially, especially for that first set of episodes we did, I just started looking through. I just started pouring through the films. I mean, I started by trying to find clips from memory and focusing on those. I think like that one from Frozen 1 where the characters, just before they meet Olaf, right? And they're just taking in the beauty of that snowscape. That was one that came to mind where I thought, wow, these characters are truly being mindful and truly living in the moment and appreciating their surroundings. And there was no dialogue, right? And another scene that I knew right away I wanted to use was from Big Hero 6, when Baymax and Hero, after having that fantastic victorious flight through San Francisco, they end up on top of that. What is it? It's like a blimp, kind of a air filter thing, I think. You can probably speak a lot better to that. But they're sitting on that and just watching the sunset, right? And just taking in the sunset. And Hero does that little thing with his feet. Baymax notices it, does the same thing, right? Just moments like that. I just thought, oh, that's the kind of stuff I want to use. But then once I found those kind of moments, I just started try to just scan through the films as much as I could and just started putting them kind of into different little subjects or buckets, I guess, according to what was going on. And then after that, tried to find those connective links editorially to go from clip to clip that would hopefully kind of make them have some sort of a visual through line somewhat. And then of course Shannon helped a lot with that sound effects wise, where if I had a kind of a janky cut sometimes, I know Shannon, you would be able to blend the sound effects together so they'd be a smoother transition.
Yeah. We tried to make, even though they're all different films, we tried to sort of glue them together and into a relaxing experience, to give them a through line, as David was saying, both visually and with the audio.
Was any clip too obscure? Because obviously Jim and I are like, where is that raindrop from? Where that rabbit, I swear that rabbit was from, so we are doing this constantly as these new episodes are coming out. So is there anything that was too obscure that somebody said, I don't even know where this came from? It's not going to be in the Zenimation project.
That's funny. It makes me think of when our producer, Amy Astley, she took on the task of making a list of all the shots that we use in each episode. And that was to just make sure that, we had everything, in order and all that, and that there weren't any issues with clearances or anything. And there were a couple I remember where she asked me like, what is that from? But to her credit, she got almost like 99% of all the shots, and even the more obscure ones, to your point. I think most of them are pretty recognizable. I know for this second season, we have a few from the well, you guys could probably, I'm not sure what the actual term is, but the sort of World War II era compilation films. We have a few shots from those that I feel like are kind
those
of
are called
obscure.
Package films, David. Those are package films.
There we go.
Yeah. Well, the other great thing about this new season for folks like Jim and I, who have obviously very little going on in our social lives, that you have footage from the Raya kind of like test footage almost from D20, like maybe one or two D23s ago. And so can you talk about incorporating that and where it came from and, that whole experience? Because it's really cool to see after all these years, that stuff.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that, Drew. That's really cool. I mean, when I first saw that footage at the Expo 2, it just looked so amazing, and I always thought, oh, it's just too bad that it can't be used somewhere else. And it wasn't gonna. We knew it wasn't going to be in the movie. So yeah, I remember. Well, I think part of it was one of the episodes was rain, and we were looking for scenes from all the films that had that, and then I remembered that footage particularly because, as you recall, the pace is slower. The shots really breathe. It really takes time. And of course, I think part of the reason the filmmakers did that with that sequence is that was the first footage anyone was seeing for that movie, right? So of course, you want to really give the viewer time to soak in the environment. And it's just, yeah. And not only was it just great to see it again and to be able to let other people see it, but it fit perfectly, I think, within that theme.
Yeah, it's a really special moment in that little bit. Yeah, it's really, really wonderful to see again.
And that shot, which you guys, I'm sure. Oh, sorry. I was going to say, just say that one shot that you guys have seen, of course, I'm sure, but that's that close up of Raya's foot in the mud, and then it just takes off, and it's just so stunning. It's just amazing.
What's interesting to me is to watch from season 1 to season 2 the increase in sophistication and the deeper dives. I mean, for example, which of the water ones is it where you pull the fish out of Fantasia, out of the Nutcracker suite? And it's one of these where I think that was one of the ones Drew and I were talking about. It's like, where did those fish come from? And it's like, oh my God, Fantasia. But those images were so previously married to that music, to see them alone as pieces of animation, and then with the amazing sound that Shannon laid under it. And it's just sort of like, you just look at these things and I've never seen this before. And it's like, no, I've only seen that film 15 times now. But you guys made it new.
One of the things we did for scenes like that, where music is such a large part, and in certain cases we didn't have sounds, was we had the Jimmy McDonald library, sound effects library from Disney, which Gabe Guy works in sound at Disney. He's spent a lot of time restoring that library and digitizing it from all the old tapes. So when we started season 2, I had that library, and I relied on that a lot to bring that older sound to the older pieces and the older clips, so that it wasn't sounding out of place and modern, on some of the older clips. And that was a really fun thing to do, to go through that library with so much history and hear all those sounds that they recorded back then.
Were there any guiding principles on that? Because I mean, there have been some really catastrophic sort of like sound effect bungles in my lifetime. I remember the first time they put Jaws on DVD. Do you remember that? And they put in new sound effects for the entire movie, and it was just a disaster. What besides looking at the kind of archival stuff, was there kind of a guiding principle that you and David talked about in terms of sound effects and how to find them and how to use them?
I guess taste was the main.
That cannot be disqualified.
Yeah,
that's great.
And again, our producer Amy Astley has a really keen ear for the period films as well, and she was great because she would hear what I had done, and she would have a reaction immediately if it was sounding too modern, or if it was sounding too full, or not of the era. And so she was a good baseline for that sort of thing, as well as David, I think, and using the guides that David provided, even though they had music in them, I could still kind of hear what was intended.
There are some of these where they span 70 years of film, and yet they're a continuous mood. I mean, again, you sit down and this, watch these things, and this feeling just sort of washes over you of tranquility, and the images blend. I mean, again, that's the thing that so impresses me, is like when you line up, Fantasia's fish with Little Mermaid, and it's like, and you buy it. It's not a question of these were made decades apart. It's all a continuous whole. And that to me is half of what's so impressive about these.
I think that's really, and I'm sure you guys would agree, I think that's kind of a testament to kind of the artistry of Disney animation from the very beginning. I mean, from Snow White up until the present. And, you think about the artists that have been there throughout the years, and from the beginning to now, all these different generations of artists who have tried to keep, I guess you would say, they've tried to keep the integrity of Disney animation intact and consistent, and while yet building on it and always trying new things and expanding it. But yeah, I think that I felt the same thing, Jim, going through those clips and just compiling stuff and looking for those common links. It's the same thing that I felt too. It's like, wow, this is amazing. Looking at how I guess for lack of a better word, the consistency of artistry and just the care and the craftsmanship that these artists, and that goes to the sound too, of course, and the technicians behind these films too. Is just that care, that attention to detail, and to me, that's part of why those things. Even though, like you said, you could have something as old as Fantasia juxtaposed with something as recent as Little Mermaid, and yet it just feels right. And again, I think that also is a testament to the sound design and to what you did, Shannon, too, in terms of bridging those together.
Was there any problem with the different sort of film stocks and aspect ratios that all these things were in? I think there's, you could tell me the exact number, but there are at least 4 different aspect ratios represented, right?
I love that you asked that question. I am a geek about aspect ratios. I don't know why, but it just fascinates me.
Yeah, me too. Jim can tell you that as well, that I am obsessed with aspect ratios. But did that sort of factor into the design of these things, and did it give you any problems when putting these together?
It did sometimes, and sometimes Amy did mention a few times where she felt like it was a little jarring if there was a hard cut from one aspect ratio to another. And I think there are some places where it's hard to describe. I think there are some places, to be honest, where it is just a little jarring and there's just nothing you can do about it. At one point I thought, well, should we blow up, or shrink down stuff so that it all fits within a 16:9 frame? And I even tried that on some of the first episodes. And I just felt like it was compromising the integrity of the original image. And you think, gosh, these artists put so much work into creating every little inch of that frame. I don't want to crop any of it off. I want to show it as it was intended to be shown. So that's kind of why we decided to just keep it all in a CinemaScope frame. And if it's a narrower aspect ratio, then you'll have those pillar boxes on the side. There were a few times where we tried to do some little tricks to go from one aspect ratio to another. Like I think there's a wipe in, I think it's the Everyday Comforts episode this time, where there's a shot from Raya where 2 people have some sort of piece of cloth, and in the original film, they use it as a transition to go from shot to shot. So I use that for the same thing. I transitioned from that into I think it was a 1.85 aspect ratio of Winnie the Pooh. So any little tricks like that, I think, I like to help. But thank you for asking that question. It's one of my favorite things.
Initially, you do these clips for the D23 in 2019, and Amy somehow gets this greenlit to go to Disney Plus. This is all about something that's going to de-stress people and take them out of a stressful environment. And and talk about the cavalry coming over the hill. This thing arrives in May of 2020. We are 2 months into the pandemic. Everyone is as stressed out as they could possibly be. And here comes this wonderful, Zenimation stuff. I have to ask that there have to be mental health professionals out there that are like, look, go home, watch these. All right. And then come back and talk to me. Have you heard from any of those folks or?
Boy, that's a really good question. I wish Amy was here. She could probably answer that better. Do you know, Shannon? I wish I could say. I know we've heard really a lot of great feedback from people just in general. But I don't know about actual
I don't know about actual stories, but I will say that it was very interesting, the timing. And it seemed like it was, David could speak better, but it seemed like it was just totally random. But it was very relaxing and meditative for me, and I think a lot of other people who were working on it, because a lot of my work just disappeared when that happened, because theaters closed, everything closed. But this was going on a streaming format, and we were able to work on this, from home and create this. And so personally, for me, I found it very beneficial from that perspective.
On the other end of the spectrum, was there any sort of corporate demand like, well, you could put in a few more shots from Raya? We got that. That's a big priority. You don't want your legs broke, Mr. Bess. That kind of thing.
Constantly.
Okay.
Well,
I
there we
figured.
go.
Okay.
There we go.
No. I mean, of course, Raya was just about to. Actually, I think it already had come out. It already had come out. That's right. Of course, we wanted to give a little attention to Raya. I mean, especially because the animation in that movie is so gorgeous. The sound design is so rich, and I think timing wise, it just made sense. But yeah, no, there was no. Actually, nobody ever literally said it. I think it was almost like an obvious thing. Like, well, of course we would show footage from this film.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know how much you can say about future installments of Zenimation. Obviously, Jim and I would love future installments, and doing a show weekly with Jim requires a lot of de-stressing on my part. So I actually need more episodes. But have you talked about, obviously Encanto is coming out in a few months, incorporating elements from these upcoming Disney projects?
Shannon, aren't you working on Encanto?
I am working on Encanto, actually. Yeah.
So, as you're working, it's like, are you already starting a pile like, well, that one would be good. Well, that one would be good.
Well, I might float some ideas over to David and see what he thinks.
Killer. Okay. So first set of these come out in May of 2020. And what I thought was interesting, was it like a month in where suddenly Disney Plus is like, hey, we've just put all these together in one 45-minute long reel. If, again, you're sitting at home really, really stressed, you can put this on in the background. As that was happening, did you guys get a sense that maybe they want to do another season of this?
I'm sorry, Jim. You're talking about the first time or the first season?
Well, yeah. As I understood it, they took the first set of 10 and then made a decision a few weeks after they debuted on Disney Plus that they'd link them all together, make one continuous, and then sometime after that, it's like, oh, and we're going to need more of these, by the way.
I really don't know the behind the scenes as to what went into that decision. That's a really good question. Other than just that they were really happy with the first time around, and do you know, Shannon?
I can't remember exactly what Amy said, but I think it was the most watched program on Disney Plus, right? Wasn't it at a certain point for like
woof?
Take that, Mandalorian.
I don't. I mean, that would be great. I'm a little hesitant to actually.
I can't remember what she said, but it was.
She may have said that, but she may have said that just out of to make us feel good. I don't know. No, I don't know if that really. I honestly, I don't know if that's really true. I hope it is. That's amazing if it is. But I've never seen any numbers on that, so I don't know. But hopefully, yeah.
As we move into the second set, did you find with the second go round it was easier to identify the sorts of clips that would work, or was it now harder to find stuff because you've already gone to the well and taken the good stuff?
A little bit of the latter there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, though, I mean, in some ways, yes, because it was a little harder in the sense that I feel for that first season we really pulled out, like I had said earlier, kind of those just kind of obvious scenes that come to mind where you think, oh, this would be great, or for example, like we took, in the first season we took the opening of Little Mermaid, where you usually see the opening title sequence, and we found a version of that didn't have the title, and we just let that thing play out, right? It just plays, and you just kind of get a soak in that moment. I feel like we kind of used a lot of those sort of really big money moments in the first season. And then in the second season, yes, it was a little more of a challenge to think, okay, we have to dig a little deeper and go back a little bit farther. And also maybe just be more open-minded as to what kind of shots could work in this kind of a Zen mindfulness kind of a atmosphere. But I think what was surprising too was really going back even further beyond the Renaissance films with Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King. Definitely we found more in there, but going back even earlier than that to Snow White, Fantasia, the package films. Yeah, it was really cool to just see, gosh, there's so much. It's just a treasure trove, right? So it took a little more work, but I think, and fingers crossed that they want another season. I think there's plenty more to explore.
Did you discover some moment or scene that you either hadn't seen before or had forgotten about and kind of got to rediscover through this process?
Well, speaking of the package films, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was Make Mine Music that has the scene from Blue Bayou.
Yes, yeah, the thing that was originally supposed to be in Fantasia, the one that they had animated and was ready to go, and then Fantasia didn't happen, and so it's like, okay, we'll do this with contemporary music.
Well, so you guys know, I mean, that the animation in that sequence of that, just the multiplane camera work in there, it's stunning. And that was one that for me in particular was a real treat to just look at again. And I had seen it years and years ago, I remember, but kind of stumbled upon it again and thought, oh, this is perfect. I mean, I felt like you could take just that whole segment of that film and just let it play out. I mean, of course it's, and I think it's a reminder too, when you see that scene and a lot of these scenes, as they were originally designed with music and with the whole mix behind them, there's no denying they are masterpiece quality, right? They are just amazing. It's like the opening of Lion King, when you hear Circle of Life with that, it's perfect. It just works perfectly. So it's not to say that taking the music away, suddenly it's better. It's not that at all. It's just a different way of looking at it. It's just a different way of experiencing something that we've seen and loved in these films, if that makes any sense.
Well, no. I would argue that, in fact, one of my favorite clips that you used this time around was the stuff that you pulled from the very, very beginning of Fox and the Hound with like the spider web glistening. And everyone thinks that is kind of lesser catalog stuff Disney, but you look at it and the artistry of that moment where it sets you in that moment and the sound bed that you guys created for that to allow you to really focus in on that. I mean, that was amazing. But it was like, I'm looking at this thing, what is this? It's like, oh my God, that's Fox and the Hound. Holy crud.
Yeah, that's a great example too. Absolutely. And I feel like there's actually a lot more. Oh my goodness. I'm just thinking of other scenes are coming to mind like that. The opening of Rescuers, when that little bug crawls up on the blade of grass, there's something about seeing them in a separate context with the music off and with really wonderful, rich sound design that, it's almost like it. I don't know, Shannon, maybe you have a comment on this. I don't know if I can quite describe it. Gabe Guy and I were talking about this once, and he kind of explained it as if when you see one of these scenes with music, you observe it in such a way where it's almost as if you're standing back a little bit and taking it in, maybe, but without the music and with just sound effects, it's more like you're in that moment. I can't do it justice. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
it feels more realistic, sort of, when the music's not playing. It's more picturesque with the music, maybe. Yeah.
Shannon, was there ever a time where you said, I can't pull the music out. The music is too perfect. I'm going to leave it alone. I'm not messing with, 75 years of animated history. Bess, you're on your own. Was there ever a moment like that where it was really hard for you to kind of separate that out?
Not really, because most of the time he didn't give me a choice. There was no music, so I had to do something.
You had to do it. Yeah.
But I'm trying to remember. David, do you remember what was the Brother Bear, where we had to do a fair amount of reconstruction on that? I think
with them splashing in the puddles.
Yeah, the Phil Collins songs for those. I think a lot of those scenes have. I think you mostly just hear his music.
Yeah. So we had to really work on those and dig to unearth some of the stuff that we needed, because it was such a music moment.
One of the things that we all love about the Disney films is, in a weird sort of way, the music tells you the emotion you're supposed to be feeling, which the visual then reinforces. And but what's great about the Zenimations is you strip at the music and you get to decide how you feel. It's hard to preserve a mood over 6 or 7 minutes, but you guys did that time and time and time again. Especially this time around, what I'm fascinated is that, you did in the first set things like flight, but for the second set, we got things like everyday comfort and kindness, where those are really feelings as opposed to locales. And, the fact that you're able to pull together a set of clips that reinforce that, and told that story. Really, really impressive work.
Thank you. That means a lot. That really means a lot coming from you, and appreciate that. Yeah, I think that's a huge credit to Shannon and what he did to kind of make a soundscape that basically takes you through all those varied clips and all those varied genres, for sure.
Yeah, one of my favorite ones from this season was Transformations, which was just kind of like a highlight reel of some of the best sound design, that's ever hit the screen, certainly in animation or in any genre, really. So it was really cool to feature all of that stuff, all that sound design in that episode. It was really fun.
Do you have some scenes earmarked, David? Give us one scene that if there is a season 3, God willing, you would want to include, and bonus points if this scene involves the 3 caballeros. So that's just the that's the groundwork.
Good luck. Okay.
Oh, those films are so cool. Wouldn't that be fun? That would be great. That'd be great. Well, and I've got a ton of clips that we didn't use that I pulled. I mean, just tons and tons, as you can imagine. That's a good question. Off the top of my head, nothing's popping into my head other than I would just love to dive more into the older films. The ones you mentioned, the package films for sure. I think Fantasia and Fantasia 2000, my goodness. I mean, just so much incredible animation in there that I think lends itself to this kind of a package, or not a package, but to the whole Zen mindful kind of thing. But at the same time, I think it's tricky because with a film like Fantasia, talk about a film that music is so integral, right? I mean, man, that's all there is in those films, right? It's music and animation, period. But I think as long as we can stay respectful of the integrity of the animation and what was intended for those, as long as we can just do it tastefully, I would love to show more shots from those 2 films in particular. Yeah.
Did you find yourself ever consulting with other people at Walt Disney Animation Studios? Because obviously you weren't in the same room with them due to the way that this was assembled, but you have people like Eric or Mark, or I know that Mike just left, but he is obviously very accessible. And what's amazing about these people is that they are legendary animators who also have an insane knowledge of the history of Walt Disney Animation. So was there ever you tapping any of them for, listen, guys, I need a turtle on a rock. Give me, your best shot or whatever, but they have an encyclopedic knowledge of that, and also the process and the technique that it took to bring these things to life. So I imagine they would be an asset and a resource during this process.
Actually, yes. And well, actually, I have to say, Amy Astley, again, our producer, she actually has, I would call it, an encyclopedic knowledge of these films. And like I said, I mean, there were only just a few shots that were from some of the older films where she wasn't sure where they were from. So I actually talked to her a lot, and she actually watched a lot of the older films and would email me suggestions of clips to use and stuff like that. I think partly because of the fact that we were in the middle of the pandemic, I was a little hesitant, I suppose, to reach out more than that. But, certainly if there's another season, by all means, and that would be a great excuse to talk to some of these legendary animators too. I mean, any excuse to talk to them and pick their brain. Yeah, for sure. It's a good idea.
Shannon, the only thing that Disney Plus had that almost impressed me as much animation was that new Star Wars Planet series, that they did with the sort of the short world
Biomes, Jim.
things.
It's called Star Wars Biomes.
Star Wars Biomes. Those had sound beds that were almost as crazy as the stuff that was done for Zenimation. Did you have anything to do with that project, or?
Sadly, I did not.
Okay, but
I'm sure I know the people that did, but I didn't work on that one.
no, they were amazing as well, but had that same, Skywalker sound level of crazy quality, so
Awesome. Yeah.
Well, guys, so enjoyed this series, and as Mr. Taylor said, really hoping for a Zenimation 3, but at the same time, kind of feel for you, Dave, about that's going to be an interesting set of hoops to jump through to find additional material and that sort of thing, but can't wait to see what you do here. Thanks again. That this was an amazing project, and thanks also to Amy Astley for championing it, and thanks again for making the time today.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. On
Thank
to
you.
more aspect ratio changes in volume 3, David. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, thank you. I love that. Thank you, guys. Thanks for having us. What a treat.
No.
Appreciate it.
We should have leaned on Shannon more about Encanto, though. And by the way, where's the trailer for that film?
Great question, Jim. I mean, time is a ticking.
Yeah.
I imagine it would have been attached to Luca had Luca been a theatrical release.
Mm-hmm.
But I can tell you, since I saw it in the theater last week, there was no Encanto trailer of any kind. So
Did it?
yeah, we haven't seen doodly squat from this movie.
That is strange, because that's November, right? And the Sing 2 trailer that we were talking about earlier in the show, that debuts a full month after Encanto. That's arriving December 22nd. So I don't know what's going on here. But what I do know is it's going on here, because you mentioned it on Twitter. I saw this. Finally, the Brian De Palma interviews that you did for your Mission Impossible podcast, Light the Fuse. It's the first one that's available right now?
Yes, the first one is out now. Jim, you're going to have to listen to it when you're done with all of your Disneyana stuff this weekend. And yeah, it's pretty great. We'll have part 2 next week, and then we're rolling back into some Light the Wick stuff, and we're having a good little spree here. So definitely keep listening.
Drew gets so many amazing people on Light the Fuse, and more to the point, gets them to tell so many great stories about not just the Mission Impossible or the John Wick films that they've worked on, but just De Palma runs the gamut, right? I mean, where do you actually start off with him?
We start off with the novel, which is going to be in paperback on Tuesday.
That's right. Okay.
Which you should definitely pick that up, Jim. It's a lot of fun, and it's interesting that it's going to be on paperback the same day as Tarantino's debut paperback of the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood novelization, since Tarantino owes so many things to Brian De Palma. But we talk about the book, we talk about his feelings on Mission Impossible 2, and next week is more of a grab bag where we're talking about, sequels to The Untouchables and all sorts of craziness. Mission to Mars, that's when that talk comes into play. Snake Eyes, I mean, we run the gamut. So yeah, definitely check these 2 out.
Very cool. Can't wait. Okay, and if they're looking for you, Drew, where would they find you?
You can find me at Drew Tailored, like a tailored shirt, on Twitter and Instagram. But Jim, more importantly, where can they find you on Twitter?
You can find us on Twitter and Instagram as Jim Hill Media, and on Facebook as Jim Hill Media News. Thanks for listening, folks. We'll be back soon.